43 people were shot last weekend in Chicago, 3 fatally, continuing a long-standing crime trend in a city that has been continuously and exclusively run by Democrats since 1931. The current mayor has not done anything about it, even as shootings have spiked 50% over the past year, 50. But now, the current Democrat mayor insists she has finally identified the problem. What is it? Take a guess. What do you think is the problem? Corruption? No. Lawlessness? Not a chance. Bad education? Nope. Do you know what the problem is? It's the answer to every one of these social issues. Racism. Ooh. Racism is specifically anti-black racism, by the way, because that, according to the left, is the only real racism that there is. There's no such thing as anti-white racism. Anti-black racism is the cause of all the problems in Chicago. So says Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who declared on Thursday that the systemic racism in Chicago is a, quote, public health crisis. The city needs to divert $10 million in grants from the CDC, grants that were meant to fight coronavirus, to establish, quote, healthy Chicago equity zones. Quote, at almost every point in our city's history, sadly, racism has taken a devastating toll on the public health and well-being of our residents of color, and particularly those who are black. Chicago has a lot of problems. Over the past year, during coronavirus, during the lockdowns, I should say, shootings and murders are up 50%. 50%, 50. Racism, right? It's all white racists going out and hunting down poor innocent black men. It's all Trump-supporting white men in MAGA hats yelling, "It's MAGA country" on the south side of Chicago, while poor old Jussie Smollett just tries to eat his Subway salad, right? Is that what it is? Well, it is a lot like that, in that those 2 alleged white Trump supporters were giant Nigerian guys who were hired by Smollett himself. If you look at the crime statistics in Chicago, what percentage of the victims are black? 75%. Okay, that's pretty bad. 75% of the victims are black. So what, 75% of the perpetrators are white? No. Turns out when you look at the killers, 71.3% are black. So almost to say a little bit less. So do white people make up the rest of that? No. Of the victims, 18.9% are Hispanic. Of the killers, 24.6% are Hispanic. So that's interesting. That's kind of making up for the other numbers. And then how about white people? Of the victims, 4.6% are white. Of the killers, 3.5% are white. So significantly less likely to be a killer than to be killed if you are white in Chicago. Racism has nothing to do with it, unless all of these black murderers are anti-black racists. These Hispanic murderers are anti-Hispanic racists. Probably not. Racism is, as we have said before on this show, just a stand-in for very shallow-thinking progressives, for secularists, to be able to make sense of the fact of sin. We know that sin pervades the world. Original sin is not some untested theory. It is just an observable fact. We are broken. We all fall short of the glory of God. We all do bad stuff. And because we all do bad stuff, there's a lot of bad stuff in the world. But we can't make sense of that anymore. So the only evil that we can ever talk about is racism. Even though there's just it's insane. It's insane to say that Chicago's problems are because of racism. That 72% of killers, 71.3% of killers in Chicago are black. Because of what? Because of secret self-hating racism? Doesn't make sense. It's not just Chicago. What this is leading to is a very perverse system of injustice, whereby the imaginary problem of systemic racism, the completely made up, contrived problem of systemic racism. Don't forget, the only legal racism in this country is against whites and Asians in university admissions. It's called affirmative action. There are other things that come out of that, other sort of grants and other legal issues. But it all goes in that direction. It does not go in the other direction. But because we have this bizarre distortion of reality, this misperception, we have even greater injustice. Hey, I'm so glad that you liked that video. There's a whole show. There's an entire episode out there that you can get. What's the title? Knives at a Gunfight. Head on over. You can check it out on YouTube, on the Apple Podcasts app, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Google Play, and you can pre-order my book, Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds. Ring the bell, subscribe. We'll see you next time.